Hi there, welcome to the LNU Show. This is your host Priya, and today's topic is a little uncomfortable one. When I was on a lookout for a financial planner, the question I would get asked the most was, so, what's your net worth? That very simple question used to make me so damn uncomfortable. I never knew the answer. I didn't know how to get to the answer, and I didn't know if the answer was good enough, regardless of all the hard work I was doing. When I shared my experience with a few of my close friends, they very much related with me and found themselves in similar positions. So, my friends, let's get comfortable with getting uncomfortable when it comes to money. In today's episode, I'll share my journey of getting to know and to improve my numbers. And I'll also leave you all with a 4 step process that I recommend you to take to up your money game. But before we get into the topic, real quick, if you haven't liked or subscribed the channel, please do that so that you don't miss any update from me when I upload a new episode, which is every Sunday. It's a teeny tiny favor that I ask for. It takes less than 2 seconds of your time, but does a huge favor for me. And if, and only if, you want to go an extra step, I would love to get feedback from you. So please share that with me via comments, or you can DM me on Instagram or on TikTok at the LNU Show. You can find them both in the show notes, so you don't have to go very far to find me. This podcast is where I share my experiences and leave you all with tips and tools to optimize your life on topics ranging from mindfulness, spirituality, building habits that help with navigating a busy career, and creating your version of your dream life. All right, that's all the housekeeping items. Now let's get right in. I don't think that I need to get us all on the same page that finances are important. They are a core of our well being, our mental well being, and are also linked with our physical well being. We all know that. We all stress about it. So, in short, I can say that finances make or break our lives, and we all have a little, or maybe more than a little, room to get smarter with our finances. I thought that I was comfortable when it came to finances. I thought that I knew my numbers, but clearly I was not right. I knew very high level of how much I was making versus how much I was saving, but still depended on my dad for being my financial decision maker. And I would always find myself going up to him for big or small decisions. I was not very close to my numbers. In my head, I was, but that was not the real case. But that changed earlier this year. I wanted to take more control of my finances. There were a couple things that led to that decision. I had invested more than 70% of my stocks and wanted to plan a few short and long term investments in the US, which, my dad was probably not the right person to consult because he was only very close to the Indian market, be it real estate or trading. So, in short, I was on a lookout for a replacement for my dad as a financial advisor. I was on a lookout for a professional financial planner for myself. I interviewed 5 planners before I hired my current financial advisor, and hands down, that was one of the most uncomfortable processes. They asked me questions that made me go deeper my numbers to find answers, and there was a lot of guilt and shame associated with that process because I didn't have the answers at the tip of my fingers. The Asian in me was very disappointed, and I was like, how do I not know how many 401k accounts I have and if they can be rolled over and what are the criterias and where are they invested? Those were some eye-opening questions, and this was just during the hiring process, so only imagine what followed. But since then, also thanks to my amazing financial planner, I have learned a thing or two about getting more familiar with my numbers and how to manage them better and how to build towards my financial goal. And that can look different for everyone, but I had a goal for myself, at least short and long term goals. The whole process made me very comfortable with, just getting myself more familiar with and managing my money better. So if you can relate to any of that, and if you find yourself in situations where I was earlier this year, then keep listening, because I'll break down my journey into a 4 step process for you all. Step number 1, I would say, is start right where you are. And I know in the world that we live in today, especially thanks to social media, it's easy to feel like everyone else but you are just rolling in cash. There's no choice but to think, where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? And why is everyone else like head deep in money, but not me? And I would say most of that is to be blamed on social media, because we just see the highlight reel of everyone's lives rather than the real deal. So keeping all that aside, I would say it's very important to assume that what we see outside is just the highlight of everyone's lives, and to not be too hard on yourself and to berate yourself for not, having millions in your bank account already, because it seems like everyone else is. I was definitely in that space, and especially when I was in Miami, because I used to feel like everyone is driving a G Wagon and, has Chanel's and is just like partying every night. How are they doing that? I have been there. The main takeaway here is to focus on the future, to accept where you are today, and just look beyond. Just look at the future and focus on that. That's what I started doing. And I just started taking one small step. I kept building, and I still keep building one brick to my wall at a time. And every day it gets a little easier. It looks a little bigger. It looks a little better. Moving on, and this is where things get very real. Get professional help. I can't stress enough on how important it is to hire someone who went to school to learn how to manage money, especially if you have some big goals with your finances and you see yourself, financially free. And everyone has their own definition of being financially free. So whatever your goal is, just get help to make that journey easier. It took me a while to decide that I need to have a financial planner, and I feel like I sat on that decision for too long. I wish I started on this sooner rather than when I did, but it's never too late, which is why I'm really, really, really going to stress on this step. Just hire professional help, and you don't need to have millions in your bank account to think that, okay, now I feel like I have enough to outsource this to someone else. Even if you have a fraction of that, I suggest you get a financial planner. And it's very important also, because they don't just look at your portfolio, but also create a game plan for you, which is catered for your needs and your goals, and be it short term or long term goals. But you definitely get a better picture, a more clearer picture of your own money. For me, my goals included buying a couple investment properties and a small business this year. I'm still working on those, by the way, and I know it's the final quarter, but I know I'm going to hit those goals thanks to my financial planner. They get yourself one. It's not just that, okay, I decided I want one and I'll have one. It's a process. It took me 5 meetings or 5 different conversations with potential financial planners before I could decide on which one I wanted to go with. It's like dating almost. It's like, the person you can trust with your finances, and you feel that they understand your needs, they understand where you're coming from, and are not just imposing what they believe on you. So it's not as easy as it sounds, just to make that clear. But here are the few questions that I asked my financial planners when I was interviewing them. I asked them, how will you help me set and meet my financial goals? How do you balance my short-term goals with my long-term goals and help me prioritize depending on the time of the year? How are you compensated and incentivized? do you work with other people with my net worth and my income bracket? How do you work with accountants to ensure that we take full advantages of tax credits? And this is such a good question, because there are some financial planners who, have preferred accountants or tax strategists who would really look into your savings and your numbers. And these are just a few examples of questions that I went with, but you can, of course, use them as basis, but build on it or reduce depending on where you want to go. But that was my step 2. And step number 3, which kind of defaults after step number 2, is knowing your numbers. And that will naturally happen because when you talk with financial planners or accountants or tax strategists, these people will ask questions that will force you to look into the numbers, to just look under the hood and get a clear picture instead of just knowing, okay, this is the money I have in my bank account, this is the amount in my savings and fidelity and da da da. The very first meeting that I had with my financial planner, and this is not even when I had hired him, but before, when I was interviewing them, standard question I would get asked was, so what are we looking at? Tell me about your portfolio. And I honestly didn't know the answer. I would know where all my money was sitting, but I did not know how much and how it was growing and what my plans were with those. That, in my opinion, was a wake up call. I clearly did not know my old 401ks. I had a few IRAs, some crypto, which, thanks to Miami, but it was all messy. It was all over the place. I did not even have one document that listed all my investments. And if you're an immigrant, it's important to know how much do you have in your accounts in your home country. Are those funds in a high yielding savings account? I did not even know that, which was very, very shameful. But to understand your net worth, to understand how much do you really have, it's important to get in the nitty gritty of it, to get your hands dirty. And your financial planner will need to know all those details to work up a game plan for you, so that your journey towards your financial goals gets easier. And that leads me to my final step: money in versus money out. It's very basic, but very important to remember that revenue does not equal profit. Most people on social media keep talking about their 100K months. They aren't talking about how much went in for that 100K to come out. So it's very important to look at the whole wheel, like what's going in before they see 100Ks coming out. This is what I did. And you don't need to get an app. You can do it on a spreadsheet. But I got this app called Found, and I started tagging everything where my money was going. This exercise showed me how much I was spending on my personal needs, on my side passion projects, on my certifications and courses that I was taking. All of that was categorized into big buckets. So I got a very neat view into my expenses, and this can happen via spreadsheet, so you don't need to go and get yourself an app, but I used Found. This step is where you really get up close and personal with your profits or your savings. And I believe it's very important to understand what your real savings are. For example, I used to look at my Fidelity account, and I used to look at a number because, they do a great job at summarizing how much has been vested versus unvested and my 401ks, and they would just give me a very beautiful looking number. And it took me a minute to understand that that number is not what's going to make into my bank account, because there are taxes, there will be, long-term gains that will be deducted, and a bunch of different things which, make me a little dizzy when I even think about them, but which is why financial planner is a good idea. It's painful, but at least you know your deal. Well, that's all I had for today. I do want to end by saying that if you are working hard, but if you're not seeing the financial results, always remember that money grows from hard work, but money stays from smart work. Just start where you are, make a plan, and watch it grow. I hope that you all enjoyed today's episode and had something to take away from it. Reminder, if you haven't subscribed to my show on Apple or Spotify, please, please, please do so. It will definitely be the highlight of my whole week. Thank you in advance, you all lovely, lovely listeners. I hope that you all have an amazing week ahead. I'll come back next weekend with another episode. Till then, take care. Bye.